And of course, this is the Adrienne Ross Show. And I, of course, am Adrienne Ross. Let's get right to it. A lot of people have been commenting about something they noticed in the Indiana Fever game versus the Washington Mystics on Wednesday. And that is the fact that Coach Christie Sides changed up her starting lineup. Now, she's been changing starting lineups. Coaches often change starting lineups, but this caused attention because remember, the Indiana Fever was coming off of a huge win against the #1 team in the league, a huge win against the New York Liberty. They had a few days off. They come to play one of the teams that's not the New York Liberty and was tied for last place in the league. And instead of riding the wave, Coach Christie Sides chose to change up the starting lineup. To be specific, she sat NaLyssa Smith and she started Lexi Hall. So some of the comments you hear people saying are, why would you do that after such a great win? And why can't she seem to show any consistency? Why wouldn't you ride the wave? This team, the Indiana Fever, came out on fire, came out fired up against the New York Liberty. They had a great start. Now, when they played Washington, they didn't get going until the fourth quarter when they attempted to make a successful comeback, but they fell short. And I did a video about how that came down to the wire. Now, I too wanted to know what the deal was. And obviously, any good reporter is going to ask the question of the coach. And so it was. Now, once I heard Coach Sides' comment, her response, I knew that this was not the typical, she can't coach, she's inconsistent, she doesn't know what she's doing. It wasn't that. It was something else. So first, let's listen to what she said in response to the question. And then I, as a former coach, will tell you what I think, what I'm rather sure is going on here. So let's check it out.
The second half, I'm curious what you thought of the starting lineup change and how it impacted the whole game.
Yeah, I don't think it impacted the whole game. That was a coach's decision, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay, there goes my next question. I was going to ask you what the thinking was behind making that change. You're not going to answer.
That was just a coach's decision, and that's what we're going to leave.
All right. Start this.
So I imagine you saw how hesitant Christie Sides was in answering the question. She kind of did the political kind of response. She basically just said it was a coach's decision and kind of shutting him down because he was going to have a follow-up question that he couldn't ask. But again, she was very hesitant in answering the question. And so this tells me that this wasn't just a basketball decision. In fact, let me rephrase that. This wasn't a basketball decision. It was a coach's decision, but it wasn't a basketball decision. I want to show this again, and I want you to take note of how hesitant Christie Sides is to answer the question, and how he said, you're not going to answer the question. She said, again, it was a coach's decision, and you could see she wanted no part of this question.
Second half, I'm curious what you thought of the starting lineup change and how it impacted the whole game.
Yeah, I think
Okay, so you see that delay. There's that delay even in responding. I'll back it up again.
Start the second half, I'm curious what you thought of the starting lineup change and how it impacted the whole game.
See, took a while. Here we go.
I think it impacted the whole game. That was a coach's decision, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay, there goes my next question.
So it was a coach's decision. And then she added, so I'm just going to leave it at that. She's shutting down the conversation. There's a reason for that.
I was going to ask you what the thinking was behind making that change. You're not going to answer.
That was just a coach's decision, and that's what we're going to leave it.
All right.
Mm-hmm. It was just a coach's decision, and that's just where we're going to leave it. So I want to reiterate, there's something else going on here That's not about basketball. So for those who are saying, what is going on with Christie Sides? And I'm not one to defend Christie Sides, but I'm saying here, I can tell you by the language she used and the way she came across, this isn't just another bad decision. This to me reeks of a disciplinary action of some sort. Because as a coach, if you felt that someone else deserved to be in the starting lineup, and she's been asked questions about decisions before, she would have said something like, well, I looked at the matchups that we were going to face with Washington, and I felt that Lexi Hull's quickness on defense was going to be more beneficial to us. And so, the coaching staff and I came together and we had a discussion, and we felt that for this game that Hull would be better for it. Or we're finding that Hull is giving us an extra boost in intensity, and so we want to give that a try. She would have said that. That's what coaches do when asked such questions. She didn't do that. She shut it down. She was very short. It was a coach's decision. The coach's decision was that for some reason, NaLyssa Smith was sat down for the start of this game. She chose not to play her at the start of the game. It was a coach's decision. So, of course, that leads us to go, well, what in the world could possibly have gone on after having such a great game against New York? What would make you mess with it? What was the coach's decision and why? A coach would have answered differently if it was all based on basketball. But a coach and a team very often will talk as she talked when you're not going to throw your player under the bus. I'm just going to leave it at that, she said, which tells us that there's more to it than that. So I'm just going to speculate. One thing I'm certain of, it wasn't a basketball decision. I'm certain of that. I'm not certain of what the reason was, but I'm going to speculate. Now, you may have seen footage, you may have seen video footage, you may have read articles about NaLyssa Smith and DeJounte Carrington of the Connecticut Sun. I guess they used to be, maybe are again, a couple or something. I don't know whether they're a couple or what the deal is, but there has been footage earlier in the season. There was on social media, NaLyssa Smith praising DeJounte Carrington and saying that, calling her the defensive player of the year. Now, for those of you who may not remember, DeJounte Carrington is one who puts a lot of defensive pressure on CaitlincLark, and she was the one who mocked CaitlincLark and saying she was flopping and all that. But earlier in the season, DeJounte Carrington got a nice little social media shout out from CaitlincLark's teammate, NaLyssa Smith, saying that, defensive player of the year, whatever. Other videos have emerged where they've gone live, and NaLyssa Smith is complimenting DeJounte Carrington on a block, and and they're kind of seem to be rather close. And so there was this video that I'm going to show, which entails these two talking about something that happened, and NaLyssa Smith and DeJounte Carrington are sort of messing around with each other, talking about basically that NaLyssa Smith was feeling up the DeJounte Carrington when she was helping her up off the floor when they were in a game against each other. Let's take a look at this video from TikTok, which I found out there in the internet space.
They said, was you mad when I found you and picked you? She held on for like at least 10 seconds. They felt like, I'm like, because you were in a dream. Back at home. That I was not. Thank you. She swears she didn't do it on purpose. She was like, I just was making sure you didn't fall. Bro, the way that she wrapped them arms around, she had your ear blocked at the front. Bro, nah, you dragged it. Can you finally admit in front of me and everybody else that you dragged it?
How did I drag it? I helped you up.
Bro, because nobody holds on to, so you be helping everybody else like that?
Have you ever seen me do
I'm
that?
asking if that's normal.
We're not talking about everybody.
Is that normal?
I'm talking about you.
Is that normal?
What are you talking about?
Is it normal?
I was just trying to help her up. She gotta stick her little booty out like that. Now we viral.
You held on, and then you was like, on the way back to defense. Girl, you're not full of me.
And we have NaLyssa Smith of the Indiana Fever, DeJounte Carrington of the Connecticut Sun. And here's this really cozy video of the two of them talking about what's supposed to be basketball, but it's made out to be, feeling up, it's sexualized. And like I said, it's gotten a lot of attention. Now, I don't know. They're grown. I'm not going to say too much about that. But I will say that it doesn't seem to be appropriate to be talking about your job where you're supposed to be doing your job and you're supposed to be defending someone and playing against someone like you want to beat them. And then you come on social media and you're joking about using your job time to sort of feel up on each other and having that out on social media. Again, I'm speculating. I know that this has gotten a lot of play. Some people would say, well, since you say they're grown, what difference does it make if they get on social media and do that? What difference does it make about them going back and forth about who's feeling up, who, you dragged it or whatever? But I'm going to say that I wouldn't be surprised if Coach Sides and the Indiana Fever organization don't take too kindly to that kind of exchange when you are representing your team. And so I'm just throwing that out there. Is it possible that that's the reason that it was the coach's decision not to start NaLyssa Smith? As a coach, I know there are times because of discipline reasons, whatever your rules are as a team or whatever you consider appropriate, you take disciplinary actions. And so you take actions that will obviously have an impact on the person you want to discipline. So that's a possibility. And it's not just that, but there have been various things said, various things posted, animosity apparently with DeJounte, that DeJounte Carrington has against CaitlincLark. And even more recently, DeJounte Carrington has come out and said even more concerning CaitlincLark. So if I were the coach, I might have to pressure a little bit and say, this is not appropriate as a team. Now, before you think, well, that's just absolutely ridiculous, I have to tell you that it's not foreign for professional sports to have rules that discourage or outright forbid fraternizing with the quote unquote enemy. You can go back to 2020. This is the headline of an article. Tracy McGrady thinks there was too much fraternizing in the NBA today. So that mindset about fraternizing is not something new. It's not something made up because it happens to be NaLyssa Smith and DeJounte Carrington. There are players and there are coaches who butt heads over this, and it's deemed inappropriate on many levels. You remember Jerry West, the legend, the former Laker, the former coach, the former executive who just passed away just almost a month ago, Jerry West, on NBA players shaking hands, fraternizing. He didn't like it. You know what he said about that closeness between the opposition? Intense, because he said, why shake hands with the enemy who wants to kill you? You should want to kill them first. It is a war. Can you imagine that? You talk about intense. And there have been people who have argued against that and have said that makes absolutely no sense. We should want kids to see that we get along and all that other stuff. Well, the great West wasn't having it. Just wasn't having it. But what I'm saying is not far-fetched. NaLyssa Smith is very, very cozy with the opposition and someone who obviously has disdain for her teammate. So it's something that has been discouraged. And part of the reason for that, believe it or not, has to do with gambling. And we know gambling is a big thing in the WNBA right now too. So it is discouraged, and it has been discouraged in part for that reason. I think Jerry West was saying, that's your enemy, stay away. But there are other people who find it inappropriate because you have to have the integrity of believing that everybody is on the court or on the field trying to win. Speaking of the field, did you know that Major League Baseball, it's official? Like I said, there are like unofficial feelings or unofficial rules about fraternizing, but in Major League Baseball, it's not unofficial. Now it's violated and it's hardly enforced, but it exists. According to the Major League Baseball rule book, and this is about players in uniform, but it says players in uniform shall not address or mingle with spectators, nor sit in the stands before, during, or after a game. No manager, coach, or player shall address any spectator before or during a game. Players of opposing teams shall not fraternize at any time while in uniform. So again, this is while in uniform, but again, there is this mindset that that's a no-no. And it's a huge yes right now. NaLyssa Smith and Adrienne Carrington. What I feel confident about is that when Coach Sides says it was a coach's decision, that's exactly what she meant. There was a reason, and it sounded disciplinary, and it was to such a degree that she did not want to discuss it and air that dirty laundry out in front of everybody. But it wasn't about, I really think Lexi Hall should have started in that game. No, it was a coach's decision for a reason. And with all the talk lately about NaLyssa Smith and Adrienne Carrington and all this fraternizing that's going on during the season, all cozy, and even to the point of one saying that you reached out to me during a game and tried to fill me up during a game, you got to start to say, this is not a good look. Why is this out on social media? Even causing people to doubt that you're all in it for your team. And so I just think that, first of all, we have to understand the mindset about loyalty to team and being focused. Listen, I remember back in the day when there would be playoff, it was playoff time, championship time, and in basketball, NBA basketball, and you would have two players who were facing each other who were friends, and while they were in the postseason, they would not go to dinner together. They would not hang out together because their focus had to be the team. And also, you don't want the speculations about all the other stuff I just mentioned, but they wanted one focus and one focus only. A lot of these players, it seems, on the Indiana Fever, even and NaLyssa Smith kind of exudes that. And I'm not saying she shouldn't be able to go out and have fun and all other stuff, but there's got to be a certain mentality and loyalty to your team and a focus to your team. And you got to wonder, when you've got that other player, you're calling her Defensive Player of the Year, and she's mocking your teammate and going on social media still. Did it before, now CaitlincLark, doing it again. Where are your loyalties? We got to get that down. So when Coach Side says we made a coaching or coach's decision, I think that's possibly the reason why she was not starting in that game. So those of you who are just saying, what the heck with this inconsistency, just by her answer, even if my speculation is incorrect, just by her answer, it wasn't just, I'm such a bad coach this time. It was more to it. And it was the coach's decision. Whatever it was, something wasn't right. I hope the Fever can get it together. I have no idea who's going to be starting in this next game on Friday night against the Phoenix Mercury. But we obviously know she did not start, NaLyssa Smith, in the game that they lost against the Washington Mystics. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe, like, help us with the algorithm. If you'd like to donate to the channel, the information is there also on the screen as well as in the description. All right, I will catch you next time. God bless you abundantly.